"It's time to streamline management," my boss announced, his voice cutting through the conference room like a blade meant to separate the important from the disposable. I sat at the far end of the table, spine straight, hands folded, doing everything I could to remain unreadable. My name is Freya Dalton, and for years I have learned that silence often reveals more than speaking ever will. My manager leaned forward, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Starting with unnecessary staff," she added, her tone casual, almost cheerful, as if she were talking about tidying up a cluttered drawer instead of dismantling people's lives. Her eyes flicked toward me for only a second, but the message landed with the precision of a knife tip. I kept my expression calm, still, controlled. The room hummed with the kind of tension everyone feels but no one acknowledges. A few department leads shifted in their chairs. Someone cleared their throat. Nobody asked questions, because questioning meant painting a target on your own back. Then the consultant's phone rang. He apologized quietly, answered, and listened. His posture tightened. Color drained from his face as if someone had pulled a plug at the base of his neck. "I understand," he whispered. "Yes, I'll relay it." He lowered the phone slowly, eyes wide, darting from my boss to my manager to me. The parent company's owner just rejected all proposed changes. Every part of the restructure. A thick silence fell over the room. Confusion, irritation, a hint of fear. My boss muttered something under his breath. My manager sat frozen, pen hovering in midair, and every single person turned to look at me. I didn't flinch, I didn't smile, I didn't even blink. I simply met their stares with quiet steadiness, the kind that makes people wonder what they've missed. No one knew the truth yet. Not about the authority they had underestimated, not about the signature that could erase their entire plan. That truth was waiting for them, and it had begun long before this meeting, 48 hours earlier. The first thread of their careful scheme began to unravel. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revengeaita. It draws inspiration from the injustices many women face in the workplace: disrespect, favoritism, and age bias against midlife professionals. We tell this story to highlight the journey of a woman who rises, reclaims her worth, and refuses to let anyone define her value. This narrative is meant to inspire, heal, and remind you that self-respect is never something you ask permission for. All characters and events are purely illustrative, and just like that, the moment that changed everything pulled me back to where it began. 2 days earlier, before any of them realized what I was capable of, I stepped into another morning in Seattle, unaware that their plan to erase me was already in motion. 48 hours earlier, I walked into the consulting floor in downtown Seattle and slipped into my desk the same way I always did, quietly, efficiently, unnoticed. The office buzzed with its usual mixture of ambition and anxiety, but none of it paused for me. It never did. "Freya, did you get the memo?" one of the junior analysts asked without looking up from her screen. "What memo?" I kept my tone neutral. "Oh, right. It went to the leadership list." She stopped typing for the briefest moment, giving me a sympathetic half-smile. "Guess they forgot to add you again." They did not forget. They never forgot. It was easier to keep me out of the loop when my work could still be used without giving me credit. My manager, Talia Reeves, stepped out of her glass-walled office just then. "Morning, everyone. Quick reminder. Leadership wants updated projections by noon. Freya, make sure you polish the deck Marcus drafted." I looked up. "Marcus used the projections I built last week." Talia waved a hand dismissively. "Then all the more reason for you to clean them up. Marcus is presenting to senior leadership. He needs your support. Support. Always that word. Never partnership. Never authorship." At the desks behind me, 2 consultants whispered, "You think she knows about the restructure? Probably not. She's on the list." "Right, likely." Talia wants more assertive voices. I kept typing, breathing slowly. Not reacting was its own skill, one I had mastered over the years. When I handed the updated deck to Marcus, he grinned. "Perfect timing. You always save me." "You're welcome," I said. "You know, when the new org chart comes out," he added, lowering his voice, "maybe you'll land somewhere that fits your style." My style: quiet, steady, behind the scenes. Nothing wrong with that. I closed my laptop gently instead of snapping it. "If that is what happens, I'll handle it." His smile said he already believed the decision was made. Inside, something shifted, small but undeniable. a quiet steel, rising. By the time the sun dipped behind the buildings, the rumors had formed their own gravity. Cuts were coming, names were floating, mine among them, and none of them understood the authority I already held beneath their polished hierarchy. 1 year before anyone tried to cut me out, I sat in a cramped conference room surrounded by people who pretended to understand the documents in front of them. Pages rustled, pens clicked, and executives nodded as if nodding counted as comprehension. Freya, the director of mergers and acquisitions, said, "You're the only analyst who reviews full contracts. We need you on the Rayburn transition team." My manager, Talia, looked annoyed. "She already has a full workload." The director didn't blink. "She reads what the rest of you skim. We need accuracy more than convenience." Talia forced a smile. Of course, for 3 months, I sat with attorneys, analysts, board representatives, and Rayburn Holdings officers, combing through integration terms while the rest of the leadership team signed summaries without hesitation. One afternoon, the Rayburn General Counsel slid a thin folder across the table. "We need an internal compliance owner for the new holding entity," he said. "Someone neutral, someone thorough." I opened the folder. "Owner designate." "It is not an executive title," he clarified. "It is a governance safeguard. You ensure structural compliance. You approve or deny changes that affect stability. Quiet work." A member of the Rayburn board added, "Your name will not appear on any public chart. This is not about visibility, it is about integrity." I nodded. "Why me? You read every line," he replied. "That is rarer than it should be." Across the hall, I could hear my own leadership team laughing as they signed their packets without flipping past the first page. Even Talia skimmed, initialed, and joked about legal fluff, but the designation in that folder meant something entirely different. It placed final authority over structural changes, hiring, firing, reorganizations in my hands. Not one person in my office realized it. They had all signed the same documents. None of them had actually read them, and my invisibility made the oversight complete. By Friday afternoon, the air in the office felt sharp enough to cut skin. Talia sent a message labeled Urgent Alignment Session, and everyone from our division filed into a conference room that suddenly seemed too small. My boss stood near the screen. "We will walk through the restructuring plan," he announced, already clicking through the slides. "These changes position us for long-term efficiency." Slide 1 showed Talia promoted to senior manager. Slide 2 displayed consulting fees, broken into harmless-looking segments, each one hiding inflated costs I recognized immediately. Slide 3 carried my name next to a role that had never existed before. Support liaison, no team, no scope, no path. Talia folded her hands. "This alignment lets high-impact contributors operate at their strongest. Not everyone fits our new direction." Her eyes skimmed over me before she shifted her gaze to Marcus, who nodded approvingly. I kept my voice steady. "When does this take effect?" "Monday morning," my boss replied. "Transition plans will be shared after the weekend." Around me, chairs creaked softly as colleagues shifted in discomfort. A few gave me quick, apologetic glances before dropping their eyes. No one spoke, no one challenged. The hierarchy in that room was too clear. Talia exhaled as if closing a chapter. "This is the right move. We need people who elevate the team." I opened my phone. My fingers didn't shake. I typed a single message to Rayburn's general counsel. "We need a Section 4.3 review. Immediate." The moment I pressed send, the tension in my chest dissolved into a cold, focused calm. My boss moved to the next slide. Talia continued outlining responsibilities I no longer held. Marcus chimed in with suggestions that sounded rehearsed. I stood quietly, letting their voices wash over me. When the meeting ended, people gathered their things. I slipped out unnoticed, the same way I always did. Only this time. My silence was not compliance. It was intention. Section 4.3 had been triggered, and its consequences were already in motion. By early Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with an email confirmation from Rayburn Holdings. My Section 4.3 request had been received. Nothing more, no explanation, no reassurance, just acknowledgement. At the Seattle office, meanwhile, the leadership team gathered without me. Marcus sent a group message summarizing their progress. Final announcement drafted. Monday rollout confirmed. I could imagine the tone in that room, eager, triumphant, certain they had already reshaped the company without resistance. Later that afternoon, I passed by a team call where the consultant spoke loudly through the speakerphone. The downsizing yields minimum 20% cost reduction, he said. Lean teams drive competitive edge. People will adapt or transition out, Talia replied. Transition as in severance, transition as in whatever the business requires. He said, the key is decisive action. I stopped walking. They saw me in the hallway. No one paused the conversation, no one softened their voices. In their minds, the decision was complete. By evening, my phone rang from an unknown number. I stepped outside into the cool air before answering. Ms. Dalton, a calm voice said. Richard Camden, Chief Counsel at Rayburn Holdings. I straightened instinctively. Yes, I am here. We received your Section 4.3 alert, he continued. Your oversight authority has been activated. The restructuring plan triggered multiple compliance concerns. I exhaled slowly. What happens now? We have begun our internal review, he said. You should expect escalation before Monday. There may be inquiries directed to your division. I understand, he paused. You did the right thing notifying us. Governance exists to prevent misuse of authority. When the call ended, I stood still, letting the words settle into something solid inside me. For years I had endured the quiet humiliations, dismissed input, stolen credit, whispered predictions about my replaceability. But now the structure they ignored was in motion. And this time, it was moving with my signature. When I stepped into the executive conference room that Monday morning, the tension in the air carried a different weight than usual. My boss stood near the front, rehearsing lines he believed would define the next phase of the company. Talia hovered beside him, smooth and composed, already assuming her new authority. Marcus scrolled through the slide deck, nodding proudly at the future he expected to own. I took my seat without speaking. My boss began exactly as he had planned. It is time to streamline management, he said. This restructure positions us for long-term. The consultant's phone rang. He frowned, checked the caller ID, and answered. Everyone's voices stopped. One look at his stiffened posture told me the review had already reached them. Yes, he said quietly, I understand. He swallowed, glanced at my boss, and tried again. All proposed changes. Another pause, a long one. Understood. He lowered the phone slowly, as if afraid of what would happen when he let go. The owner of the holding company refuses to authorize the restructure, he announced. My boss blinked hard. What owner? Who are they talking about? The consultant checked his tablet. His jaw tightened. It says here, Freya Dalton. Chairs shifted. Someone gasped. The silence cracked open like thin glass under pressure. Talia stared at me as if seeing a stranger. Marcus froze, blinking at the screen as though his promotion had just been erased in front of him. My boss pointed at me. This has to be a mistake. She is not, she cannot be. I met his outrage with calm I had earned over years of being underestimated. You built a plan without reading the governance rules. I said, I did. I straightened, letting the truth settle across the room. And no, this is not a mistake. Their expressions changed fear, confusion, dawning realization as the structure they ignored finally surfaced. And every consequence they had set in motion was now turning back toward them. By Tuesday morning, Rayburn Holdings had moved faster than anyone in our office expected. An audit team appeared on our monitors in a video conference, while 2 compliance officers arrived on site, requesting access to files that had never been questioned before. Marcus hovered near his desk, pale. They want the bonus records, he whispered. Talia's voice shook. Which ones? The adjustments from last quarter, he muttered. The ones we processed under performance alignment. I listened quietly as the audit team projected their findings. One officer spoke evenly. We identified unauthorized bonus increases for Ms. Graharsen, Ms. Reeves totaling nearly $20,000. Talia stiffened. Those were approved by leadership. Another officer responded. Leadership approval is insufficient without holding company authorization. Then came the consultant contract. The compliance manager adjusted his glasses. Your agreement states a rate inflated significantly above market standards. No justification is documented. My boss stepped forward. We acted in good faith. We needed rapid support. The business demanded it. A voice from the speaker interrupted Richard Camden. Calm and controlled. Good faith is not a substitute for governance. The structure exists to prevent unilateral decisions that compromise stability. The next slide hit harder. Email threads dated weeks before the restructure announcement where Talia and the consultant discussed eliminating my role before the review period even ended. My boss pointed at the screen. "This is being taken out of context," Richard responded. "Context is precisely what we are restoring." Talia turned to me then, her voice strained. "Freya, you could have come to us. You did not need to escalate." I kept my expression steady. I reported what the structure required me to report. The audit continued. Each discovery cutting deeper into the certainty they once carried, and the team had only just begun tracing the decisions buried beneath their ambition. By Wednesday afternoon, the office felt split into those who pretended nothing was happening and those who watched every unfolding moment with held breath. I stepped into the hallway to print a set of audit documents when Talia suddenly appeared beside me. "Freya, can we talk?" Her voice was quieter than usual, threaded with urgency. I kept my tone calm. "What do you need?" She moved closer, lowering her voice. "This whole situation, it escalated too quickly. The timing was terrible. You know how stressed everyone is." I held her gaze. "Stress did not create unauthorized bonuses or hidden contracts." She exhaled sharply. "You blindsided us. If you had just come to me, we could have addressed everything internally. You made the auditors believe we were targeting you. You were targeting me," I said. Long before Monday. Talia stiffened. "It was not personal. Restructures happen. Sometimes roles no longer fit. You called me unnecessary," I replied. "You said it in a room full of people because you assumed I could not fight back." I closed the folder in my hands, steady. I was not silent. I was patient. Her jaw tensed. "You are misunderstanding everything." "Maybe," I said, "but the auditors will decide that, not you." She stepped back when she saw two compliance officers approaching. They nodded politely before entering a nearby meeting room, where HR had begun interviewing employees. Through the doorway, I heard stories of sidelined voices, dismissed contributions, patterns everyone noticed but no one risked challenging. By evening, the audit team's board filled with printed statements and verified threads. None of it relied on emotion. It relied on records, witnesses, and the quiet truth people finally felt safe enough to speak aloud. As the last interview ended, the room grew still, every line drawn, every line crossed, had been named, and Rayburn was preparing its judgment based on all of it. By Thursday morning, Rayburn's board had reached its conclusions. The announcement came through a formal video call, the kind where every sentence carried the weight of finality. Richard Camden spoke first. "Based on the audit findings, the board has determined appropriate corrective actions." My boss leaned forward, already defensive. "This has been exaggerated. I have led with integrity." Richard did not soften. "You are suspended effective immediately and referred for an internal investigation regarding unauthorized structural decisions." The words hit the room with a quiet impact. No one argued. Talia sat rigidly beside him. When Richard turned to her, she tightened her hands in her lap. "Ms. Reeves," he said, "your employment is terminated for policy violations and manipulation of internal reporting. Documentation shows repeated efforts to misrepresent performance assessments and conceal restructuring intentions." Talia swallowed hard. "I can explain, the records have explained," Richard replied. The consultant cleared his throat. "Our firm acted under your leadership's direction. The contract your firm accepted exceeded market standards by a significant margin," Richard said. "It is voided. Penalty considerations are underway, one by one. The structures they relied on crumbled in front of them." Then Richard addressed me, Miss Adine Dalton. "Rayburn recognizes the necessity of ensuring that governance is never compromised again. We are creating a new position, Director of Governance and Strategic Integrity. You are our recommended appointee." My boss looked stunned. Talia stared at the floor. I kept my voice steady. "I accept the role." As the call ended, colleagues approached me throughout the day, people who once spoke over me, dismissed me, or forgot I was in the room. "Freya, congratulations. You earned this. We should have seen your value sooner." I responded with professionalism, not triumph. The work ahead mattered more than their regret, and the path I would build from here had only just begun. On Friday morning, I unlocked the door to my new office. It was small, tucked away near the legal wing, with a plain desk and an empty bookshelf. Nothing about it was flashy, nothing announced power, and yet, for the first time in years, the space felt wholly mine. Richard stopped by as I set my files down. You will want to review the draft protocols, he said. They give you full oversight on structural changes. I nodded. No one should lose their job through hidden agendas again. Not here, he smiled. That is precisely why Rayburn trusts you. You read what others skim. You listen when others talk over each other. And you act when it matters. By midday, I met with Rayburn's senior leadership in a brief video call. They outlined expectations, transition plans, and the authority attached to my role. When they finished, one executive added, "This position exists because integrity requires someone who does not chase attention. You proved that." After the call, I drafted the first version of the new governance process, clear review steps, documented justifications, transparent channels, no more silent eliminations, no more buried decisions. Marcus stopped outside my door. "Freya, I meant what I said before. You earned this." I acknowledged him with a small nod. "We move forward with better practices. That is what matters now." He left quietly. When the final document was ready, I opened the approval portal, something I had operated from the background for nearly a year. Now, the authority was not hidden. It had a name, mine. I signed the governance decision with a steady hand. Power, I finally understood, was never about volume. It lived in discipline, clarity, and the courage to act even when no one is watching. And the life lesson that stayed with me was simple. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is the strength that allows truth to rise at exactly the moment it is needed.